On this edition of City Profile, we'll be talking with City Commissioner and Mayor Pro Tem Richard Abraham. Stay with us. Hello and welcome to City Profile. I'm Tom Butler. It's always a treat for me when I get Richard Abraham into the studio, and that's what we have today. So welcome, Richard. Good to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Well, you haven't been here in a little while. We had an election. You were elected Mayor Pro Tem, but I don't want to talk about that just yet.
Okay.
Last time you were here, you were telling me about your family.
Yeah.
Mickey was in New York doing some big things. So what's going on with your family and your daughters this time?
Well, Mickey's still in New York. She's auditioning. She's that's big auditioning time of year for her. So she's doing that. Also is working.
That's good.
Yeah. So she's doing her thing. Grandkids are all well. My oldest daughter, Sitha, she's a nurse over at Lourdes. So that's good. That's solid. Cindy and I are like empty nesters. So we're doing our thing. Everything is good, man.
Is that good or bad?
That's good, man.
Yeah,
always.
I thought so.
It's like when we first met, right? It was just us. So that's good. Everything's good. I'm a blessed man. No complaints.
All right. Well, let's talk about the city for a little bit.
Okay.
You were reelected this time for how many terms have you done? I know it wasn't straight, but
since '08 consecutively. First ran in 2000 and got elected. So ran for mayor in 2004. Yeah, since '08, I've been fortunate enough to earn the trust of the folks here in the city to elect me consecutively to president.
And this time, the voters gave you an extra vote of confidence by electing you with the largest number of votes, which means you are Mayor Pro Tem, which means what? Which
means if the mayor is out, I run the meetings. I was a top vote getter amongst the candidates running, and the way that works is once the election is over, the elected body votes on a mayor pro tem, and I won it. I got the most votes, but then it's pretty much a formality to vote amongst the board of commissioners. So you don't really run to get the most votes. You kind of run to win, to get elected. But if you happen to get the most votes, I mean, that's the extra added confidence.
It doesn't hurt your feelings.
No, a little political capital, if you will.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I was happy for it. That means a lot. I think folks look at your body of work, and my daughter McKinley, she did an ad on the radio for me when she was here back last year for a while. And one of the lines in there said that I'm not right 100% of the time, but I'm a reasonable guy, So that's what you want. You want folks that are reasonable, you can sit down with and reason things out. So, yeah.
Well, this election was a little different than we're used to in Paducah, because in general, the incumbents win. And we had an incumbent that did not win, and we had a former commissioner that decided not to run. So we have two brand new ones. Well, Gerald's not brand new to it, but he's new to this commission. Does that say anything to you?
Well, on the first point, typically incumbents are really hard to beat because just the way it lays out. You've been there, folks know you. But that happened to me. The very first time I ran in 2000 and I won. And I ran for re-election as an incumbent and I lost. So I totally feel Sarah's pain on that one. And as far as Gerald, I guess he had enough of Frankfurt.
Yeah, I think so.
And wanted to come back home and govern from that standpoint. So yeah, to some folks it's kind of weird. I never take elections for granted, man. Particularly after that first one, because I just knew I was going to win re-election. Man, he could have knocked me over with a feather when C.D. Bradley walked through the restaurant and told me, you didn't come out so good. And I'm like, what? No, you didn't win. So, been there. And
so what did that, I don't want to go too much into that, but what did that say to you at that point? Did you evaluate what you did right, what you did wrong?
Well, it was, you know, I was a brand new guy. I got in there, and as a freshman commissioner, I was trying to learn my way. Apparently there are some things that quote unquote untouchables that you don't want. If you do touch it, you better touch it with kid gloves. You know, you don't just grab a hold of it and then shake the truth out of it. That's not something that folks at that time appreciated. But I only knew how to do the job the way I knew how to do it. You know, I knock on your door and tell you who I am and how I'm going to work. I can't get up there, put a suit and tie on, and you're like, well, who the hell is that guy? I don't recognize him at all.
Right.
So that's the way I've always been. And that first time, I mean, I guess, I don't know, made some folks uncomfortable, and they voted me out. So, but that's okay. That's the process. I wouldn't change the process for anything. So my daughter, my youngest daughter, McKinley, said that, she goes, you lost. You going to work tomorrow? I was like, yeah. She said, but everybody knows you lost. It's going to be in the papers and everything. So I said, well, maybe I'll get them next time. And so that was my approach. Excuse me. I wasn't shy about leaving the house the next day. I know who I am, and I'm comfortable with who I am, and I don't have any vendettas or hold any grudges against anybody. So I figure it'll come back around like it's supposed to, and that's what it did.
Well, I assume you're like everybody else. You learn and you grow. How did that process? Did that take over with you, and you evaluate, and then did you change anything for the next election cycle?
Information. That was one of the things that I was just having a conversation with McKinley the other night. She called, and you know, in any business you have ups and downs, and you have those low moments, and she was having kind of a low moment, and I talked about, you know, when you go through things, pay attention and learn from where you are at that point, because there are going to be ups and downs as we go through this life. But it's very important to learn something while you're there, so that so you can learn, so that you can not be at that point again. You've learned some things that maybe next time you can see some things coming and adjust. You know, life is full of adjustments, like a ball game. You make adjustments. So I made some adjustments moving forward. Wanted to make sure that I had accurate information. Check some things out before I run into the China shop, you know, and they served me well. Mr. Coleman was a big help to me after that, during and after that. So I think we got it right from that point moving forward. Again, not being perfect, but trying to understand the room and picking up that vibe.
All right. So as Mayor Pro Tem, you perform the duties of the mayor if the mayor is unable to be at a meeting, or I assume if she was unable to fulfill the duties that you would be like the vice president is to the president of the United States. You would take over and be mayor. There wouldn't have to be another election or anything like that.
Correct.
So you had a little taste of being mayor a few weeks ago. Yeah. The mayor's out of town. You got to run the meeting.
22nd of January.
And so you dropped a bombshell on me the last time you were here and said you were considering running for mayor. So you got a small taste here.
Yeah.
How did that go for you?
Oh, it went great. It went great. I am 100% on it now. I'm definitely running. That meeting was it's like anything else that I've been involved in, man. It comes in like a flood, but that's okay. I was ready for it. I knew what I wanted to do. I was thoughtful of some of the other commissioners that were particularly Commissioner McElroy. She was brand new. She's brand new, and so what I wanted to do at that meeting, I wanted to introduce an ordinance or to rescind a resolution that we had passed earlier, and the place was packed out. I mean, I had a stack of folks that wanted to comment this thick, and I'm looking at that, and typically we give folks like 3 minutes to talk, so I gave everybody 4 and asked them to be conscious of the fact that there were other folks that wanted to talk, and so it went well. It was a little. And some folks were kind of tense, you know. I wasn't really tensed at all. And here's why. Because, and I keep going back to this, we have a form of government where if you want to come to City Hall and voice a complaint about what we're doing as a board, or congratulate us and slap us on the back and give us a attaboy, that's fine. Either way, I'm fine with it. I may not agree with your opinion, but that's your opinion, and you're an expert at it. I'm fine with it. So the meeting goes on, and it's over, and some folks are all fired up, and I get asked a question, how you think it went? Well, it went the way it was supposed to go. You know, folks got a chance, didn't cut anybody off. There wasn't making any facial expressions when people were saying things that I just knew in my spirit was totally ridiculous, but they didn't know that, right? And that's just being polite when you ask folks to come to your house, man. You don't be rude. So, but to answer your question, I'll never forget when I sat down. The very first time I sat down, I sat in that seat, and I'm looking around. I'm looking over here at Commissioner McElroy, and I'm looking down there, and Commissioner Wilson. And I look out there, and I was like, I like this seat. This feels kind of good. So. Had a little fun with that, but it went okay. Okay, good.
Let's talk a little bit about the current happenings in the city. One of the big items that I know that you've been working on, and I don't know if people understand how this process goes, is the city's strategic plan. Mm-hmm. So what is a strategic plan, and how does it affect you as a commissioner and the decisions that you make going forward?
Well, the strategic plan itself, that model, is used by cities, organizations, probably the college has one.
We do.
Where you want to go 3 to 5 years out, let's say. And then you look at areas in your city where improvement needs to be, and you try to brainstorm and figure out the best way to get there. And that's the part that there's some debate on how to get there. Is this the right approach? So you bang that out a little bit, and then you put some programs in place to help you get to where you want to be. For instance, one of the things that we're currently, I just had a meeting on, was our art program that we have, the Artist Relocation Program. It peaked back some time ago. I think we had a total of about 75 artists that relocated here. We have like 5 left, and so that meeting was all about is how do we, because a lot of those guys when they moved here, they were like, okay, this is an art hub here, and we're going to move our product. And what I found out in the meeting is a lot of those guys, they didn't have that minor expertise on how to market and how to get their stuff out. So once the pep rally was over, you stuck with a trunk full of art that you can't move. And so that meeting that I had the other day was all about fixing that. I think we're going to be reaching out to the college here to offer those courses that, yeah, you're passionate about your art, but the business side of it, you have to be knowledgeable about what you're doing so you can make a living at what you're doing. So that kind of thing we're working on.
Well, the interesting thing about that to me was that it was a great program. Everybody's really excited about it, but I mean, Paducah is a relatively small market, and art is not cheap.
No.
And so when I've been to the galleries and stuff and see things that may not be overpriced for some people, but I'm never going to pay $500 or $1,000 or $2,000 for a piece of art. So how do you market yourself when you know the people in the area, most of them are pretty much like me, and they can't afford, you know, really expensive luxuries like that.
Yeah, and again, the Paducah come to the rescue because of where we're located. You know, if I'm doing a piece of art and I'm going to price it, you know, accordingly, I pretty much know that locally, yeah, there's some folks locally that probably could afford my work, but also right down the road is Nashville. Right this way is St. Louis. You got Chicago, you got Memphis. How do I get my work in front of these people? You know, do I have to actually just take my stuff to a gallery? How do I set up a showcase? All of those type of things. And that hopefully that will be something that are moving forward, that our artists here in town can learn how to do and make a living at what they want to do.
Well, and that's a big deal because art is one of the selling points for Paducah. I mean, you know, the Tourism Commission and all that has really been making Paducah that. And then you look at that program and think, you know, it didn't work. What are we going to do about that?
Yeah, it worked. I think it did what it was supposed to do. I think the expectations of folks moving to Paducah. Well, let me just give you a quote. So I'm in this meeting the other day, and this knowledge is like shared with me that, you know, you graduate college with an art degree, and then you don't have this minor in the business side of it. And my thought was, if I was a parent and I was paying for my kid to go to art school or 4-year degree, how is it that you didn't teach them this? I mean, don't they go together? Or are you just basically setting the guy up to fail? I mean, so I think the artist relocation program, it worked to get some houses rehabbed, and that was great. Revitalize the neighborhood, that was great. And you can see the remnants of that now. But for the artists themselves, those folks that weren't professionals and retired and had art like as a hobby, okay, that's one thing. But if you're moving across country and you're going to make a living doing that without this tool over here, then that, I don't know how wise that was. So what do you learn? You learn from past things. So moving forward, you're like, okay, we need to make sure that we empower these guys. Again, this is a city not doing everything, but creating an environment so if that's what you want to do, then within this community, this is what you need to do. So you go out and you talk to guys at WKCTC or the Murray campus and find out what you need to do to bridge that gap.
All right. What else in the strategic plan is particularly of interest to you?
The stormwater. You know, the stormwater. That's on the forefront.
Which is very relevant right now. We just came through some pretty major flooding.
Pretty major flooding, and so since we met last, we had the consulting group come back, and they're like, okay, so this is what from the partners and the groups, the study groups that we met with, people here in the city. So they recommended a stormwater fee. I think it was like $6.50 to as a fee. Now that fee, it doesn't go to general fund, it doesn't go into anything else. It's specifically for stormwater maintenance. So now the higher the fee is, means that, okay, so that maintenance and everything comes out of that fee, which means what? Tom, we got some pipes that are like 100 years old, man. And so you gotta repair those things. So you set that fee, that's a reasonable fee, I think, for your maintenance, for payroll, all of that stuff, the guys working on the flood wall, all of those things come out of that fee. Now, some of the commission are like, that fee is kind of, I don't know if that fee is that's kind of high. So you want to bump that down. Well, when you bump that down, then that's less maintenance. So I remember being in the commission chamber back in, 2015, and we had that crazy rain, 100-year type stuff. And we had all those folks in the commission chamber, and Mayor Kaler was the mayor at the time. And we told those guys that we were going to do something to try to alleviate some of that rainwater, that stormwater. You're not going to stop flooding, but it's a storm management system. Obviously, our system is not managing stormwater as well as it's going to be.
So the fee is going to be to fix those 100-year-old pipes, and will it take some pressure off of the general fund because of that fee? Evidently, that money's been coming out.
Well, currently we don't have a stormwater fee.
Right.
So everything is coming out of general fund. So this would set money aside just for stormwater.
Yeah.
And that will help because we don't have anything now, So and that fee has not been set. That's what was recommended. So we have to go back and look at that and we'll powwow as a commission.
Yeah, and if I understand it correctly, it has to do with like the surface area of your house and your property and all that kind of
there's
stuff.
a word that escapes me now. But for instance, that fee is based on a single house dwelling. But now you can go, when you look at places like the hospitals, you look at places like some of our churches that have big buildings, a lot of concrete, a lot of water moving really, really fast. Their fee would be a little north of what.
I guess it's a complicated mathematical figure to figure out how much water comes down, goes off a roof, and runs into the stormwater management system.
These consultants, man, they're amazing. I mean, there's a formula. I'm looking at this. I'm like, okay, all right. You get this out there, no. Break that down. Break that down into Reese's Pieces for me, man, so I can grab a hold of it. But basically, depending on the size of your house and your roof, and if you got more grass around your house and concrete, then that kind of.
Does everybody who lives in the city have access to the stormwater, the sewers, the management of water? Because I live in the county and I don't.
Yeah.
So there's nobody that's left out. There's nobody going to be paying that fee that doesn't have access to that.
No,
system.
Man, we have areas in the city that floods and hold water more than others, and those areas were identified, and so there are some things that will go into that part of the neighborhood or that part of town to help get the water flows a lot better.
Another thing that you've been vocal about at meetings is what most people refer to it as the halfway house.
Halfway house. Keaton Correctional.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a safety issue. And one of the things that we take our oath in KRS, and you look at that job description as when it relates to the Board of Commissioners, that's like the top three, safety. So that one, still working on that, right now, we're in a management type of situation because it's still here. Until it's not here, then we're going to have to deal with it. But
is that what you want, for it not to be here?
Yeah. And it's a process, man. And I'm ready to pull the trigger on it now, but it doesn't work that way. So as we actively wait for that to happen, what are we doing? Well, personally, myself, I have reached out to the new jailer and David Knight and his staff, Arnie Puckett, and we're working on a vocational training program for the inmates there at McCracken County Jail. And I pulled a friend of mine in, Mike Gentry, who volunteers over at the Halfway House to kind of connect those guys into getting a skill, man. Carpentry, welding. This particular thing will be a welding class so they can learn how to do something. Now, understand, I still think the Halfway House should be moved, but until that happens, if we can offer these guys some skilled training so that when they get out, then the chances drop dramatically when you have a trade, when you've learned a trade. You have something to look forward to. You have some marketable skills that you can go out into the workplace and earn a living. So that's still an issue, but we're trying to work it on both ends. You know, yeah, you guys need to get on up out of here, but while you're here, what do you got going on inside? Not a whole lot. So let's try to create a program so these guys can get some skill training.
Yeah, it's probably one of those things nobody really wants that in their backyard.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, we only have about a couple of minutes. We also have a brand new county judge executive.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about the cooperation between the city and the county in the last couple of minutes?
Well, so far it's been pretty good. We've had a couple of joint meetings. We talked about creating a TIF district in the city, and we had discussions about that. 911, we met on that. And trying to make sure that any dead spots out there in the county when folks pick up the phone, and it's more about the radio communication with the professionals, first responders, making sure that they know what's going on. So far it's been great. There's always been this, for me, seems like there's always been this perception that we bump heads on a lot of things, or we're not on the same page. Anything happens in the county is going to affect us, and vice versa. So I think it's imperative that we work together, even though we had separate governments, but work together, because it's the folks here living in the city and the county it's going to enhance or take away from.
All right. Got anything else you itching to talk about?
That's about it, man.
We've been talking with Paducah City Commissioner Richard Abraham. It's always a pleasure, Richard. This has been City Profile. I'm Tom Butler. Join us again next time.